Hello, I am Mustafa Toprak. I'm an associate professor and chair of Education Leadership Department at Sharjah Education Academy. And today I'm with Dr. Elisabeth Rees-Johnstone to discuss the role of education leadership in vision building. Elisabeth, would you want to introduce yourself first?
I'm happy to and delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. As introduced, Elisabeth Rees-Johnstone, where I have the pleasure of serving as Executive Director with the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto.
Thank you so much, Elisabeth. Elisabeth, now that we are co-constructing an education leadership program and we've been engaged in doing this, can you tell me what it means to you co-constructing an education leadership program in Sharjah and in the UAE?
Absolutely. I think co-construction is really fundamental to education practice. I think as educators, this is truly how we approach our work. From a co-construction of this particular program, we have the pleasure as an institution of working very broadly across the globe. But our best learning happens when we can create community and when we can most effectively learn from one another. This particular experience that we've had in collaborating has been phenomenal. Our teams have learned so much. We've worked over many months in bringing together what we would understand as some of the theories, but really thinking through and considering what is it that we're wanting to create in our own teaching and learning practice, and what does it mean in terms of the context in which we're trying to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's through those forms of collaboration, the exchange that we've been a part of, that we start to distill and go deeper into understanding, again, the context and where we can do more effective meaning making.
Yeah. And generally, community of practices are known to be among effective strategies to share best practices, to build knowledge, competencies, and skills, and to be able, to make sure that individual members of the community are able to implement what they have learned as part of the community of practice. So I'm personally very happy to be involved in co-constructing the education leadership program. It has been a great learning experience, has been very productive so far. So I also want to move on to a more general question related to successful school leadership. As you know, generally there is a focus on promoting effective student outcomes or helping students achieve better student outcomes. This is generally situated in the literature and in the policy as like kind of the main goal for education leadership. But what can you tell us about successful school leadership that promotes not only positive student outcomes, but well-being as well?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the, what is it that orients a system? For an education system, what brings us together, why all of those who are participating in that system, we're oriented to the student achievement, to the care and consideration of our students. That's the student centricity. But we also understand that there's complexity and there's layers to how that student achievement is obtained, fundamentally achieved. From a leadership standpoint, I think we're, in our context, have been very influenced by the construct of what we refer to as distributed leadership. That leadership is not solely about a single person. It's not about necessarily the position. We play as administrative leaders. There's a managerial element to what we do. But from a leadership and an engagement of teams and an achievement and consideration of student and student well-being, it takes a village, so to speak. And so that requires engaging and working across many different roles, many different mechanisms, and bringing them together, all these pieces of a puzzle. And so this notion of how we distribute our capabilities, encourage accountability of all, because we have to come together in order to achieve on the fundamental goal, which is the achievement of our students.
Great. And it's great that you're focusing on student well-being, but I think we should also add maybe or make the well-being broader and add teacher well-being.
Absolutely.
And even principal well-being. This is something that is generally overlooked in research and in policy agenda.
Absolutely. I think we understand the criticality of the teacher-student relationship. That's fundamentally this teaching and learning relationship. In order to affect that relationship, what are the conditions that can come around that to enable? Our care of the teacher is critically important. So we're paying attention to, while that teacher is paying attention to that student, we need to be paying attention to the needs of that teacher to enable and to effectively show up to do what they need to do and do it well. So what are all the conditions that we can create? How do we create environments where there's support, where there's co-construction, where there's collaboration, where we can connect one peer to the next peer.
Where the expertise is distributed.
Distributed, where there's this sense that I'm not in this alone, but I'm working across teams, expertise, and I can pull upon those resources. And I think the leader, the school leader, plays a critical role in creating that environment to be able to affect those opportunities in that condition.
And this reminds me another question that is directly related to what you're saying, collaborating and creating a shared vision. So as you know, school principals are generally tasked with collaboratively developing a vision, communicating it with the school community, and making sure that this vision is being implemented. So what advice and insights can you share with us regarding what administrators do in Toronto to ensure that there is a vision building, but it's also being effectively implemented in a collaborative way?
I really think this goes to the core of one's own well-being as a leader, with the identification that while I may have accountability, I am not alone in the implementation and the execution. And the feedback loops, what needs to happen, will buoy me up, give me energy, give me purpose to continue in leading in the achievement of the plan. So that's a really important mindset, that it's not just on me to try and drive something through, and that the whole spirit of planning, this is all in focus of improvement and the steps that we'll take as a community to improve upon in the achievement of a student outcome. That orientation brings purpose. And when we have purpose, that connects us to our practice. That brings us into wanting to be there in that morning, in that school environment, because I have purpose. I have a team. I know that we're connected and going together. That fundamentally buoys that well-being. And when we're doing that, we're taking care of the whole person, my whole person, the whole persons on my team, and thinking about the community in that way. It's not isolated, and encouraging colleagues not to think of it as isolated. And that when you're inquiring or seeking assistance, that's not a deficiency in oneself. That's actually, I think, an act of one of the greatest strengths, that you're releasing and engaging joint accountability, that we're going to come together and advance on this together.
I really like that you put purpose as a central tenet of leading people, working together with people, because it's actually one of the most significant elements of motivation as well. Start with the purpose and then build on mastery, developing skills, etc. Thank you so much, Elisabeth, for your time and for sharing your expertise. We'll continue sharing our expertise and best practices.
We absolutely will. We learn so much together from one another.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.